start Mem Dalet Amud Beis 44b it's about 8 lines from the top. Amar Rabbi Yosi Bar Chanina.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. As chas of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash immediately. Starts like this. Amar Rabbi Yosi Bar Chanina, Hamitzi Shemra ala Yisema Pater. Rabbi Yosi Bar Chanina says that a Mitzi Shemra is someone that he marries a girl, and then after the marriage, after the first night, he claims that she wasn't a virgin, and therefore she had adultery in between the betrothal and the marriage, and turns out that this fellow's a liar. He's a mitzi shemra. He gives her a bad name, right? Well, let's say she was a Yisayma. She did not have a father. Rabbi Yosi Bar Chanina says that he's going to be pater. What's he pater from? He's pater from, there's lashes that he's supposed to get. He's supposed to pay 100 coins. Shenemar, as it says, V'nasna lavi anara, to give the money to the father of the girl. Prat lazu shein la'av. This girl doesn't have a father, so he's exempt. Masav Rabbi Yosi Bar Ravin, B'tema Rabbi Yosi Bar Zavida, Israel Amiraim in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yosi Bar Ravin, and some say Rabbi Yosi Bar Zavida, asked, 1 second. It says, V'mayin yimayin aviyah, l'rabis yisayim l'knas. This is not a Mitzi Shemra. This is referring to Mafata. If a man seduces a young girl and he lives with her, so one of the halachas there is that he has to remain married to her. But if the father refuses to let her get married to him, so then he doesn't marry her, and he just gives the coins. He just gives 50 coins. Mayar Abisulis. He has to give her the value. Well, when it says over there, Imma'ain Yima'ain, that's like a double expression. It means like surely refuse. Refuse, he shall refuse. The Yimain is he shall refuse. And the mine is just like refuse, like an infinitive, I think. That's coming to include a Yisayma. That means that she can also refuse. It doesn't have to be the father. She can also refuse the husband, the seducer. So what are you telling me that the Yisayma doesn't get the money by the Mitzi Shemra, by the Mefata, they do get the money. No, what's the question? One's a Mefata, one's a Mitzi Shemra. So Rashi speaks out that we're looking that there should be this comparison here between the two. Okay. Div Rabbi Yosei Glili, that's the words of Rabbi Yosei Glili. Well, he answers he asks the question, he also gives the answer. His answer is when does he have to pay the money? That's when she had a father, when he seduced her. And then the father passed away. So the money was already owed to the father. And in other words, at the time of the sin, the father was there. Now when it comes to the payment, so then he has to pay it to her. Okay. So when would the case be of the Mitzi Shemra where he's pater? That's when she didn't have a father when he married her. And he's claiming that she committed adultery. And that's when she doesn't have a father. He's exempt from paying those coins, even though he lied about this. Okay, Rava Amar Chayev. Rava says he argues on the halacha of what was it? Rabbi Yosi Bar Chanina. Yeah. It says Mitzi Shemra is actually Chayev, even if she doesn't have a father. Mimai, how do I know? How do we know this? It says Midatani Ami, because Ami taught. That's a little bit unusual that he should say that Ami taught. Usually it's Rabami or something. It's Ami taught in the Brisa. It says Besulas Yisrael v'lei Besulas Gerim. The pasuk was talking about by the Mitzvah Shemra. It says because why does he get the punishment? It says because he gave a bad name. He said a bad bad reputation. Made a bad reputation for a girl, a virgin of Israel. That's referring to a virgin of Israel, not a virgin of the converts. Well, now he's not done. Rav is not done. He has to explain how this proves that if she doesn't have a father, she's going to be chayiv. The husband's still going to be chayiv. We're going back and forth between seduction and Mitzvah Shemra.
Is just giving someone a bad name.
Yeah, it's when the husband says that I didn't find her to be a virgin. Yeah.
It's a particular bad name.
Yeah.
The other ways of giving a girl that name.
Yeah. Right. So, if you say, that if there's no father, the seducer, not the seducer, here we're talking about the Mighty Shemra. The Mighty Shemra, the one that gives the bad name, is obligated. Defamer, good. Then you have to tell me that by the convert, the convert doesn't have a father automatically. Because when they convert, they're considered not related to anyone.
But if he converts independently, then does he become a father?
No. No, even if the family converts together, they're not considered related. They're considered not related. So
this is by not related father.
Right. So Eliyamrit b'Yisrael ki agavna pater has to be Yisrael pater b'gerim yibai. You see, the comparison goes like this: since a convert is considered that doesn't have a father, so we have a special pasuk that tells me that the laws of the defamer only apply to someone that only apply to a Jewish girl, but not to a convert, the girl that converted. Now the issue is that if by a Jewish girl that doesn't have a father, the laws don't apply anyway. So then why do you have to tell me by the convert that it doesn't apply? The convert doesn't have a father either. It must be that the Jewish girl without a father, the laws do apply. And there's a special halacha that by the convert it doesn't apply. So that's Rava's proof that he says that if a defamer defames an orphan girl, a girl without a father, so then he's going to be chayav to pay that fine.
So in general, if something happens to, let's say this girl's a minor, would there be any payment to the father if he's not Jewish or convert, I should say, if she's?
No. I don't know what the halacha would be. I'm not sure.
Like a fine.
Right. Maybe he would just get malchus for giving for testifying falsely.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know if is this considered testifying falsely when he doesn't actually testify. I mean, he's not considered two witnesses. Maybe then he has to get witnesses. No, this is I'm not sure. I don't know. I know he definitely gets malchus because the Torah says he gets malchus.
Right.
But that's by the Jewish girl. But I don't. If the halacha doesn't apply, I'm not sure. Then what would be anyways? Yomi Rish Lakish says, "Hamitzi shemra laktana pater." If someone defames a girl that's a minor, he's exempt. Shenemar v'nasnu lavi hanara, nara mali dibar akasav. Usually, when the Torah writes the word nara, it writes nun ayin resh without the last hey, and the last hey is understood.
This is ayin.
Nun ayin resh, nun ayin resh, right? In the last hey is understood because of the comments under the resh. The hey doesn't have a sound anyway.
Yeah.
It's they call it mater. Is that the word for that? Mater lectionis or something.
No.
It's a consonant. It's not really a consonant. It's just there to hold a vowel. It shows that there's a vowel before it. It's not a real consonant. The hey. So yeah, the word is the same whether it has the hey or it doesn't have the hey. But there is one place in the Torah where it writes nara with a hey. And that's one place, that's by the Mitzvah Shemra. It says V'nasnu lavi nara. So what do we learn from that?
Whisper.
Yeah, that's what the
Commentator.
like those people that change that edit the text, I forget what they call them. People that like they lose all the drushes. They say, oh, it must be, like the Chazan. They said the Chazan. They got this guy to go up to the Amid. He says, "L'fnei Hashem kiva, kiva. Hey, I found a mistake. Even the rabbis didn't catch it. So it's kiva twice." Okay, so that extra hey is coming to teach us that it needs to be a nara and not a katana. It has to be a girl that's 12, not under 12. Maskefla Ravacha Barabba. Ravacha Barabba is a question. That's your source. It says Taima the Ksiv, but we had this Gemara like 5 pages ago. Taima the Ksiv ba Hanara. The whole reason is because it says Hanara. If not for the word Hanara with the hey, you would have told me that it's referring also to a girl that's a minor. Over there, there's this options of what's going to happen. He defames her, right? He comes to court and he says she wasn't a virgin. If they find that he's guilty, that he's defaming her, so then he has to pay the coins and he also gets lashes. But if we find that he's right, then the girl has committed adultery in between the betrothal and there's a death penalty. Now, 1 second. How old is the girl? She has to be over 12 to get the death penalty. She can't be under 12. So obviously this whole story is only when the girl is over 12. So what are you telling me that we learned from the word Hanara that she's over 12? She can't get the death penalty if she's under 12. The whole story doesn't fit. It has to be that she's over 12. So he says, Elakan Nara. Over here, it's telling me Nara. You see, the way the sages understand the writing of the word Nara, without the hey, is that it's coming to include, if it doesn't have the hey there, then it's including the young girl and the Nara. The minor and the Nara. But if it says Nara with the hey, then it's specifically 12 to 12 and a half. Now the explanation for that may be, I saw this in the Koran and when we had the Gemara before. It says that na, the word nar means the lad, and nara, spelt the same even without the hey, is the girl. But under 12 years old, then they're not developed yet, and you can't really tell the difference between the nar, at least externally.
Yeah.
The nar and the nara.
Without the hay,
right.
It would be like
right. So that would include, without the hay, it includes the minor.
And the 12 to 12.
And the 12 to 12 and a half. With the hay, it's so, and where do we get that from? It's only the 12 to 12 and a half with the hay. Now,
without the hay,
it's including the minor. Yeah. Now, so what we're saying over here is that this Nara is only, it's not that it's teaching me what the halach is here by the Mitzvah Shemra. By the Mitzvah Shemra, I know what the halach is by the defamer, that it's between 12 and 12 and a half. Otherwise, there wouldn't be no capital punishment for her. So, but over here it says Nara to teach me about everywhere else that Nara without the hay includes under 12. And it's specifically with the hay that's only from 12 to 12 and a half. Okay.
So So in the Torah, it only has the hay, or it doesn't?
It almost never has the hay,
Okay.
except in one place, by the Mitzvah Shema.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's how you know.
yeah.
That the
Yeah,
Mitzvah Shema is more inclusive, broader.
Right.
It's fast.
Someone one time told me a pshat that Nara means that she's a virgin. And V'nasna Lavi Nara would be that you give to the father of the girl that's a virgin because he was, but it's not necessarily so, because he had relations with her. She's not a virgin. There's a problem with that pshat. It doesn't fit. No, it doesn't make sense. Okay, Tani Sheila.
Isn't it the Sula?
Basula, yeah. And the question is how the Torah is spelling the word Nara. Is that teaching me something about if she's a virgin or not? I don't think it's possible to say that.
What they use.
That's not what the Gemara's.
Harry or something.
Oh, that was Alma.
Alma.
Yeah. And over there, Alma, actually, it comes from the Hebrew. The word Alma means a young girl.
Right.
Now, in Aramaic, the Christians translate it to mean a virgin. But in Aramaic, an alam is a strong. It really means youthful. Kol de olam kvar. It's with an aleph. The aleph and ayin is
What's
interchangeable.
the male version of Alma?
An alam.
Alam.
I don't know. Alam sounds like a mute also, but the word, alam in Aramaic means strong. Okay, Tani Sheila. Sheila taught. This is our second Amira without a rabbi before it,
right,
on the page. If I'm not mistaken, there was a Reb Sheila that was in Bavel before Rav was there, and we had a Gemara before at one place where Shmuel almost put Reb Sheila in Cherem for doing something. Remember that? And Rav told him, let's look into it first. And then they looked into it and they saw that it wasn't the way they thought. Yeah. But you're in the Tzaddik Kalavin or something. It says, no, he didn't quote. He quoted a pasuk that it's good to delay and to think through. Yeah, I don't remember where it was. It was somewhere here. Okay. So Sheila taught Shalish Midis Benara. There's 3 laws when it comes to this girl. Number 1, Bola Edim Bebeis Chamea Shezintza Bebeis Avia. After she gets married, okay, she's already living by her father-in-law. The husband took her into his house. That means she's married, not just betrothed. She's married. And witnesses come and say that while she was betrothed 6 months ago, because they would wait a year, 6 months ago, she committed adultery while she was in her father's house. Now, this is very similar to the case of a Mitzvah Shemra. What's by the Mitzvah Shemra? After he marries her, he then says that she committed adultery when she was betrothed. So what's the halacha by the Mitzvah Shemra? Mitzvah Shemra, the rule by the defamer, says that she gets skila at the entrance to her father's house. They do skila, they stone her, the entrance to the father's house. That's to say, rugidulim shegidaltem. Look at this girl that you raised. Look, she's committing adultery.
But they're both considered witnesses now, in both cases.
The husband in this case it would be like his testimony versus we're comparing that to 2 witnesses coming, right?
So it's like
it would be the same halacha, right? Bola edim bebeis savia shezintza bebeis savia. Let's say he didn't marry her yet, they're just betrothed, and witnesses show up now. Well, over there the halacha is second al pesach shariyir. You don't have the special halacha It's just over there. You just have another halacha. It says that kiya nar b'sulam mayrasa and b'shachavish if a man lays with a woman that's betrothed. So it says that they get skila by the El Shari'ir. They take them out to the gates of the city and they get skila by the gates of the city, which is similar to the case of the defamer, but over there it's at the father's house. And over here it's going to be just at not at the father's house, but at the gates of the city.
I don't get it. Let's say the girl had relations before she was betrothed.
Oh, then there's nothing.
But how do they know that? Because the guy marries her, and then he says, she's not a virgin, but she was not a virgin before he was betrothed to him.
Yeah, it would be very hard to. The only way to really do that would be as if she was 3 years old exactly. Then it couldn't be that she had relations before. If the betrothal was when she turned 3. Then before the betrothal, the virginity would have returned if it was from before. It must be that it was from after 3. After 3, I don't know how long that engagement was, that betrothal was. It could be 10 years. But coming out to, it has to be a nara, so it would be 9 years, right? It would be 13. Okay. Well, that's case number 2. Case number 3 is sarchal l'b'seif bagra. Let's say she reaches maturity before the court case. So when she's a nara, it's not telling me if she's still in her father's house or if he married her. Let's assume she's still in the father's house. She's still in the father's house, and she reaches maturity. So now she's not a nara anymore. Now she's already bageres. She's 12 and a half. Then Allah has tidim bechenek. Then she gets the regular punishment of an adulteress. A married woman that commits adultery gets chenek. It says mois yamas, right? Rashi says over there. Anywhere where it says mois yamas, then is chenek, right? That's okay. Those are the 3 halachas. Now, what we learned, the chiddush over here, was that when she reaches maturity, the halacha changes. That was the chiddush over here. The Gemara asks, "L'meimra the kol hechad shtani gufa shtani ktala." You're telling me that if her body changes, then the death penalty changes also. Capital punishment moves from stoning to strangulation. Chenek. But a mini, I have a contradiction to that. It says Nara Marasa Shazinsa. If there is a Nara Marasa betrothed girl, 12 years old, that she commits adultery, Umishabagra, Haitziala Shemra, and the husband waits to tell the Bezdin about what she did until after she reaches 12 and a half. So the rule now is, who ain't a like it? It turns out that he was just defaming her. It wasn't true. So he doesn't get lashes. Why? Because she's not a nara anymore. Beina nice and and he doesn't have to pay the coins. He v'zaymamah, now she and the Eidim Zaymamin, I'm just going to challenge this in a second. Makdimin lebeis haskila, they go to be stoned. He v'zaymah al kadaitach. What are you talking about? She and the Eidim Zaymamin. If there's Eidim Zaymamin, then she shouldn't be stoned. We find out that they were liars. So, rather, it's she or the Zaymamin. What was the story here? Was she guilty or was she not guilty? So either one, okay, even though she's over 12 and a half, the same story, she's going to end up getting skila. Well, the problem over here is, you told me a minute ago that if she reaches maturity before the court case, that she gets chenek, which is the regular halacha of someone that commits adultery. A married woman that commits adultery gets chenek, is strangulation. Yeah. So, and here you're telling me that no, even though she reached maturity, she still gets skila, so it doesn't change. The Gemara says, "I'm a Rava, Moitzi Shemra Kamret." You're telling me about a Moitzi Shemra? Shani Moitzi Shemra the Chidushu. The Nichnas Alachupa Blay Nivala Balma Vizin Sabachenek Vila Moitzi Shemra Beskila. Rava gives a very interesting svara. You see, what were we talking about before? We're talking about where a girl commits adultery when she's still in the father's house. And then she reaches maturity before the court case. So we said that it's going to be chenek, a regular punishment because she's older already. But then we quoted a case where there's a man that marries the woman he's betrothed to, and he makes up a story about her. Or maybe it's accurate, maybe it's true. He says that she committed adultery earlier. And even though now, at this point, when he comes to court, she's already reached maturity, she's 12 and a half. But the laws of the Moitzi Shemra still apply. She gets stoned. Because when did she commit the act?
As a minor.
Not as a minor, after 12.
After 12, oh.
She was 12 already.
But if she was a minor.
Then we had before that it doesn't apply to the minor. Right?
Yeah, because the whole thing is new, pretty much.
Right. What's happening?
We're hanging out downstairs.
Oh.
I don't know, she's shame a 12-year-old.
She could just, if she's a minor, she could just leave her husband without a get.
No, that was only if the brothers married her.
Oh.
Married her off. That wasn't if the father Hirsch. Okay, listen to Rava's Svara. His logic goes like this. You're basically what we're dealing with here is a girl that is betrothed and commits adultery, and then she reaches maturity. Now she becomes 12 and a half. So we have a statement from Sheila that she doesn't get the regular halachas of a nara, of a 12 to 12 and a half.
Oh.
She now, because when she ends up in court, she's over 12 and she gets the halachas of the over 12, which is chenek, as opposed to skila, which is if she's under 12 and a half. So even though the act was committed when she's
Like a big difference.
12, she gets the halachas of the 12 and a half because now she's older. The problem with that was the Moitzi Shemra, the defamer, when he shows up after she's 12 and a half, the halachas of before 12 and a half apply. So Rava comments on that. He says it's not a contradiction because Moitzi Shemra has different halachas. Now his logic goes like this. I mean, the Moitzi Shemra is claiming, the defamer is claiming that she committed adultery in between the betrothal and the marriage. When is he claiming that? Immediately after the marriage. He marries her, he brings her into the house. The next morning he shows up, he says that she wasn't a virgin. That's the defamer. Now, if at that moment she committed adultery, let's say after he brings her into the house, before he lives with her, she commits adultery. Now she's a married girl. What would the halacha be? Chenek. A regular married woman that commits adultery is chenek. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is he's saying that she committed adultery beforehand. But now, at her age now, it's not really her age, but at her situation now, the law is chenek. So even if she would commit adultery now, she would have the law of chenek. But when he defames her, so then it's skila. Every Moitzi Shemra is like this. So what are you telling me that by a Moitzi Shemra, if she reaches maturity, then maybe the halacha should change. The halacha should change and she should get chenek. No way. Every Moitzi Shemra, her status changes at the moment that she gets married. She goes into the house, and nevertheless, the halacha is that she gets skila. So by Moitzi Shemra, it doesn't change. because he's testifying about what took place before the marriage, during the betrothal in the marriage, and because he's testifying what took place when she was a Nara, before she's 12 and a half, the halacha is the halacha of a Nara, which is skila, not chenek. Well, Amalei Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua, in other words, what Rava just did, he says Moshe Shemer has a special chiddush. Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua says L'Rava, he says to Rava, he's a student of Rava. Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua and Rav Papa are students of Rava. Says to Rava, he's telling Rava that you're making an assumption here. You're taking it a little bit further than what the Torah did. What the Torah did was that if she would commit adultery at this moment, she would have chenek. But because she committed adultery before, so then it's skila. Now, Rav is adding to that the same thing should apply, that if she reaches maturity at the time when he's testifying about her, that it should go back to be skila. Because just like if she would commit adultery right now, after, just like when she gets married, the law changes. Also, when she reaches maturity, the law changes. But nevertheless, we don't change the law. We go back to what the law was originally. It says, but you can't compare those two cases, because one of them, when she reaches maturity, she has a bodily change. She's now, her body is different. And here, it's not her body change. Here, she's just married. It's not her body changing. He just brought her into the house. That's the whole thing that changed. Her status changed. It's not a body change. So Rav Huna Breder Yeshua is saying, I'm not sure if you're 100% correct, because you're making an assumption that that's what the Torah is being mechadish. It's not necessarily so. Ella Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, Ishtani v'le Ishtani Tanaya. The way to resolve this issue between Sheila and the brisa that says that the girl that reached maturity still gets skila, or Sheila would seem to say that she would get chenek. The way to resolve it is by just saying it's a machlekes. We were trying to make a difference between Motzi Shemra and if she actually committed adultery with witnesses, right? That's where it's going to make the difference. And Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, no, just the way to resolve this is just to say that it's a machlekes. That's how we resolve contradictions sometimes. So, Tanai, it's a machlekes Tanaim. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Now, to tell you about this machlekes Tanaim, we switch cases. We go into another set of halachas over here. If a regular person commits a sin, he has to bring a female sheep or a female goat for a chatas. But if it's a nasi, which is a nasi is the king, a king. Or if it's a kohen Mashiach, or if it's the kohen gadol, so then they bring other karbanos. They bring the nasi brings the soyer, and the which is a male goat, and the kohen gadol that does the avera brings a par, which is a bull, a cow, a male cow. So let's say they did the sin before they were appointed as a king, and before he was appointed as a kohen gadol. Then he gets appointed. So what type of sacrifice does he bring? Does he bring the sacrifice for when he committed the crime, when he did the sin, or does he bring it as in his status now? You get what we're comparing this to the girl before, when she was a Nara, to the way she is now, which is now she's a Begeris. So we have this, when she did the act to when she's getting the atonement or the trial. Okay. So the rule is Harein Ked Yaitis. That's the Tanakama's opinion. That the way the Kohen Gadol and the Melech, the way they bring the sacrifice is the way they would have brought it at the time when they sinned, which is the female sheep or goat. Reb Shimon Shimon says that it has to be that they knew about the sin before they were appointed. And then they have to bring a sacrifice. But Mishin Esmanu, but if they find out about it, after they after they were appointed as king or high priest, then Pturim, then they're exempt entirely. They don't have to bring anything. Okay. So what do we have here? Machlekes, if you follow after the trial, or if you follow the way it was when the crime was committed. Umar says, 1 second. Eimer the Shamin Leila Reb Shimon Dazal Af Basa Yediyah. What Reb Shimon just did was Reb Shimon tells us that I need both. I need that he what's wrong?
I can't get into any pages.
We started.
It's not straight.
Wow. What Shimon's saying is that I need both to be in place. I need the time of the sin, and I also need that he's in the same status, that he knows about it at the time when he did the sin. But if he finds out about it after he's appointed as a king or a high priest, then he doesn't bring it all. Now, that's not exactly what we're doing when it came to the defamer. Over there, we were saying that maybe it's going to switch to be chenek, which is after. In other words, Reb Shimon's not making this exclusive either before or after. There is no or after, according to Reb Shimon. There's only a before plus the after. Reb Shimon's never changing his carbon to be after. The carbon is always the carbon of at the time of the sin, which is the female sheep or the female goat. He's never saying that it switches to after. So it's not a perfect matchup over here to say that that Reb Shimon fits with Sheila. So does he say that? Carbon He doesn't say that you should bring the carbon of now, of being appointed. That the king brings the goat and the Kohen Gadol brings the bull. He doesn't say that. Okay. So we don't really have it set up perfectly that it should be machlekes. Ha'amalei Rabbi Yochanan Latana Tni Teiden Beskila. When the Tana taught this in front of Rabbi Yochanan, what Sheila said, that if she commits the sin and then she reaches maturity, she becomes 12 and a half. And Sheila says that she gets chenek because her status changed. When they taught it in front of Rabbi Yochanan just corrected it. And he said, no, she gets skila. Back to the old status, even though she reached maturity. Now the Gemara, after all we went through, the Gemara now says, why? We just corrected it. The Gemara says, she's not the same status. She's already a begeres. She's already 12 and a half. She's not 12. Amar Rabila, Amar Kra, Hanara. When it says in the pasuk Hanara, the girl, Hanara Shaisa Kvar. It means the girl that was a girl, and then she committed the act. Okay. Amalei Reb Chanina Rabila, Hachi Milkin Namililke, Omeya Sela Namil Shalom. So why, when it comes to the death penalty, if she's actually guilty, she gets killed, what type of capital punishment does she get? She gets the capital punishment that she would have received if she would be a Nara, right? Even though she's already older than that, she still gets that punishment. Now, 1 second. If that's the way we're going to judge her, it's as if she's still 12, in between 12 and 12 and a half, then why, if she's not guilty and the husband is considered a defamer, he's a Meitzi Shemra, how come the rule is that he doesn't get malchus and he doesn't have to pay the 100 coins? If we're considering it as before, as she was a Nara, he would have to pay that and he would get malchus. For her, we consider like before, and for him not. So Rabbi Yochanan responds, it was Rabbi Chanina says to Rabbi Law. Rabbi Law responds, Rachman al-Islam mehai daita. Eibishter should protect us from your thoughts, from that logic. So Rabbi Chanina says back to him, Adarabba, Rahman al-San midaita didach. On the contrary, the Eibishter should protect us from your thoughts.
Oh, that's not nice.
This could go on forever.
She doesn't get,
May God protect you.
so this Nara, it's a minor. She wouldn't get a skila. That's what we said. Committed adultery.
She does get skila. That's
Oh.
according to Rabbi Yochanan, she's getting skila. The question is, so why doesn't the husband have to pay? If the husband was a defamer, why doesn't he have to pay the 100 coins? Which we said that he doesn't.
I just don't know why it's getting into the weeds of whether or not she would get skila or chanek.
Well, skila chanek is a difference between 12 and 12 and a half, and 12 and a half. After 12 and a half, a regular adulterous woman gets chanek. Special halacha by a nara that she gets skila. So here she's reaching maturity in between the court case, before the court case. At the court case, she's already at the trial. She's already a begeres. So we were thinking that she should get chenek. Well, that's what Sheila taught. Rabbi Yochanan corrected. He says no, get skila.
But it's both capital.
Both capital punishment.
Die.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of getting into
They're stashing them both. They're not saying you get life imprisonment.
It's worse. Skila is more painful.
Right.
So the younger girl gets what the more painful.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Mercy.
I think without looking into it, just like because that sometimes as people mature, they behave better. So they give a more severe punishment to someone younger.
Oh. Give a more severe punishment to the kids, the young.
Yeah, to keep them from misbehaving. When they're older, they're not going to do that anyway. Depends what. At least this is with. There are things that are like that. There's. I don't know. The drunk driving must be probably younger people. I don't assume older people don't get caught drunk driving as often as children, or little kids. Not little kids, but teenagers or something. We hope. Okay. The time am I. What's the reason that we're going to make this distinction between her guilt, where we consider her still to have the status of the 12-year-old, and his guilt, where we consider her to have the status of being older, of being a begeres, when he defames her? Why are we making that distinction? So, Amar Rab Yitzchak Baravan v'Tamar Rab Yitzchak Barabba Zu Maiseh Garmala. Look, she committed an act. When was that act committed? When she was a nara. V'zeh Akima Svasav Garmala. But this guy also did an act. What was his act? He twisted his lips. That means he spoke. He defamed her. Zuma said Garmala Kshiz Anoi, Nara Zanoi. When she committed adultery, she was a nara. And this guy, he twisted his lips. That means he spoke bad about her. When is he going to be chayav? Vayishaita. It's only at that moment. Well, vayishaita begeres hava. His crime was when she was older. His crime is when she's a begeres. But he's saying, what's his crime? He's lying. He's saying that she committed an act when she was a nara. But that story never took place.
Right.
So the crime is all right now. So that's why we consider her begeres, and he doesn't have the laws of the nara, the nara marasa, of the regular Moitzi Shemra laws.
Wow. So we switched from her crime to his crime.
Yeah, and his crime is now because she never did the earlier crime. But if she actually did the earlier crime, then okay, that fits. Tanarabanan started in the Brisa Nara Marasa Shazinsa Sekel Nesal Pesach Besavia. Nara Marasa, a girl that's betrothed and she's 12, in between 12 and 12 and a half. and she commits adultery, so she gets stoned at the entrance to the father's house, as it says in the pasuk. Ein la Pesach Beisav. It's in Kiseitze. Yeah. If her father doesn't have a house, Ein la Pesach Beisav. Yeah. So Cyclone Sal Pesach Shahir Ahi. Then she gets stoned at the entrance to the gate, the city gate. But let's say it's a city that's majority of Gentiles. Cyclone Sal Pesach Bezdin. Then the entrance to the Bezdin is where she gets stoned. Similar to this, we have another case. Someone that worships idols. He gets stoned on the gates of the city that he worshipped it in.
Uses the word kochavim, stars.
Yeah, worshipped idols. That's
the term.
Yeah. Sometimes it's kochavim mazalis, worships idols and constellations.
Depends on the sensor.
Yeah. Sometimes it's Avdei Gelulim. It's also as idols. Yeah. Right. Gelulim is a term for idols, but it's based on the word that means excrement. It worships, but it's like a negative way of saying. But if the city is majority Gentiles or worships idols themselves, non-Jewish people, then Pesach Bezdin. Okay, the same halacha. Minani Mili, where do we get this from? That I guess that we end up in the Bezdin in the entrance. Let's see. So the Tanur Rabbanan was taught in a brisa. Sha'arecha. This is talking about in Parsha Shoftim. It says, "Ki matzu b'kirbecha b'achad sharecha." If you find in your gates, in one of your gates, someone that's worshiping idols, so it says, you take that man or woman that committed this act out to the gates. So it says gates. That's referring to the gates of the place that he worshipped. Ata Aimer. How do you know it's the place where he worshipped? Maybe it's the place where he's being judged. Let's say it was different cities. He worshipped in one city. He's going to trial in another city. It says it says the gates twice. It says the gates. If you find someone in your gates that's worshiping idols, well, obviously in your gates it means the city that he's worshiping idols. Then it says you take him out to the gates and you stone him there. It doesn't say, yeah, and then they stone them at the gate. So that's the gate where he's being judged. So it says, well, just like the first gate is the gate where he worshipped, so too the gate that he's being judged is also the gate that same gate in the gate that he worshipped. In other words,
literally worshiping a gate.
No, at the gate within that city, within the gates of that city that he. The gates probably means like the square. Okay. Another pshat. Sharecha v'lei shari of the kichavim. Sharecha is teaching me, and not the gates. Sharecha, your gates, and not the gates of a city that's mainly non-Jewish people. Gemara says, "Hi sharecha afikte." You already used that sharecha to teach me that it's the gates of the city that he worshipped. Now you're telling me that it can't be the city of that where there's people that are not Jewish. You're right. We used it once, but there's extra letters here. There's a suffix on the word. Sharecha, your gates. It's telling me there has to be a Jewish city, not a non-Jewish city. We only know so far which gates the stoning takes place by idol worship. How do we know which gates which house the stoning takes place? It was really the house, right? by the Nara Marasa, by the girl that's betrothed. Amar Bavo Gomer Pesach mi Pesach uPesach mishar v'shar misharecha. Okay, I would not know what this is talking about if not for Rashi. Rashi spells it all out here. It says actually we're talking about. It says in the pasuk the entrance to the father's house, and by the Mishkan it says Masach Pesach Shar Hachatzer. I have the Pesach and Shar right next to each other. So just like by the Mishkan, it has Pesach and Shar next to each other. Also, when it says Pesach by the father's house, it has the gates. We're going to add the word gate next to that. Well, it says the word gate. Now I know what gate means by Avodah Zarah. So now I know which gate it is. Okay. The gate that she committed the sin at. So therefore, when it says entrance to the father's house, it means the yeah. But didn't it say Pesach Beis Avia? So I knew it was the father's house. I guess it's coming to tell me that it would apply that I would go to the city gates. If she doesn't have it, that's what I'm learning. I would go to the city gates if the father doesn't have a house or she doesn't have a father. Amar Rabavo, I'm sorry, we did. Tan Rabbanan, started in the Brisa. Hamitzi Shemra, Leica.
Maybe the reason for that discrepancy is if her father lives in another city, but she did it within the gates of this city, she does not go to the father's house in the city, but she stays with this city.
Actually, I think she does go to the father's house because we say Ru Gedulim Shagidaltam. Look at what you raised. Yeah. Taner Rabbanan, taught in the Brisa, Mitzi Shemra, someone that defames the girl, his wife, Leica, he gets Malkus, nice and may sell, and he has to pay 100 coins. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lilkais, Leica Mikal Makim. Malkus he's always going to get. He defamed it. However, Meyasela, the 100 coins, that depends. Because Baal, if he lived with her and then he claims that she wasn't a virgin, then he has to pay the coins. But Loi Baal, if he didn't live with her, so how does he know she's not a virgin? Because he has witnesses. See, he shows up with witnesses that she committed adultery. No, he shows up after he brings her home. He then witnesses come to him and say, she committed adultery. Yeah, don't go in.
What is defamation? Defaming exactly, like I know what it means, but
when you say something bad about someone,
you can't just say like, oh, like my wife doesn't like this food. Or
This is
that's not
not
defamation.
No,
This is like
she
someone
committed adultery.
serious stuff.
So serious.
I'm thinking about father and he is acquired the property.
Right.
So he says she has she's not a virgin. He
right.
Violated our
right.
And if the court we give back the property, what happened? Her property.
If she's guilty?
Just occurred to me, sitting that he could have an incentive. He acquires the property.
Right.
Now he wants to get rid of her.
Right.
So he can get undone.
And he turns out that he was saying the truth or that he was lying. If he was saying the truth, then she gets stoned. And the property, I guess, would be considered like a mekachtos. It was never a marriage, maybe. To her father, right? I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
He's lying though. Then if he's lying, then he gets to pay a fine.
He has to, and lashes, and he has to stay married to her.
And but if he's telling the truth, then
She gets killed.
he gets killed. Okay.
Yeah.
So if he's lying, why doesn't he like Zayn
Adam Zimmerman.
yeah, why doesn't he get what he wanted?
Yeah, that's only by witnesses. It's a good question.
Like he should get killed.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Then she's an
He's
orphan.
asking, why doesn't the husband get killed? Just like Adam Zimmerman get killed. He was trying to get her killed. And in the end, all he gets is lashes and 100 coins. Good point.
If they did zone, they would have gotten killed.
Yeah, Adam Zimmerman. Yeah, if witnesses show up and say, what are you saying? He's got to have witnesses also. I don't think you can just believe, you're not going to just kill her just because of his word. We have to find witnesses, right? Isn't that what it says in the psukim there?
Don't worry, the wife will come and kill him after.
Yeah, that's exactly, it's a gossip, right? Right. Okay.
Another quick question.
Yeah.
The agreement of the lease. Any exchange, any opinion, just stop agreement as a written.
I think there was a Shtar Erison. It could be a Shtar Erison. It could be, Haisha Niknas. A woman is acquired, who's talking to Erison, because of Shtar Babia. Theoretically, he could do Erison with either money, with a document, or with relations. And now Rav didn't allow Erison with relations, right? Only the marriage could be with relations.
Just trying to get this figure. Barusin, she becomes usher to any other man.
Yeah.
He acquires the exclusive rights in the
Right.
That's all that happens.
Right.
Like a contract and property.
Like an option. But acquiring he has
Right.
the right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't pay anything for that.
If he gives her money.
He gets money.
If
at the
that was
time of
Right.
he pays her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not cheap to get married. It
Um,
wasn't cheap to
Gemara,
get married.
okay,
right?
could you just-
Get engaged.
And now on Memhayim Beis Tanur Rabbanan.
She gets to keep the engagement.
Okay, so we did Reb Yehuda. Reb Yehuda says that it depends. He's always going to get lashes for what he's saying, but not necessarily he's going to have to pay the 100 coins. That's going to depend on if he had relations with her, and then he says that she's not a virgin, he has to pay the 100 coins. But if he's just saying that she's not a virgin because witnesses tell him that she committed adultery, so then he doesn't have to pay the 100 coins. The Gemara says, they're actually arguing right here in an earlier machlekes. Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan Vachikam, and this is what they're saying. The first opinion of the Tanur Rabbanan is following the Rabbanan that says it doesn't matter. He always has to pay the 100 coins and he gets malchus, whether his claim is based on his own relations with her or it's because he has witnesses that say that she committed adultery. Rabbi Yehuda Lilka is like a mikal makim. When it comes to getting lashes, he's always going to get the lashes. He's defaming her, and it's not true. Meyasela, the 100 coins, that's going to depend. Baal Naisen, Loibal Eina Naisen. And who holds that? That's Karabbalas ben Yaakov. If he's saying that he's basing it on his relations with her, then he has to pay the 100 coins. If he's basing it on witnesses that told him, he doesn't have to pay. That's Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov's view. Later on in the Gemara, we're going to go back and we're going to say, why are you telling me this machlekes is a machlekes Rabban and Rebbe Lezer ben? I don't know either of them, but we'll have that quoted. My Rabban and my Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov on the next page. So
these two guys always argue. They're both students of Rabbi Akiva. You think they learned from Rabbi Akiva, and then they each come up with different answers.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But you, Rebbe Lezer ben
Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov is a student of Rabbi Akiva?
Yeah. He's the one.
No.
Yes, there's Rebbe Lezer ben Shammua on one side, Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov on the other side.
Oh.
Remember, there were two.
There are two Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakovs. Yeah.
The other one was way up on top.
Maybe That's what I thought, that it's referring to the earlier Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, and that's why it was saying that this machlekes is following the earlier machlekes. Otherwise,
I think one of them was sleeping in class, so one says, Rabbi
well,
said this.
in our Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov are agreeing. It's the Tanakam and the Rabbanan that are also agreeing, that are arguing on them. Ikadamri, however, there are those that say it like this. They say, Kula Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Everyone is agreeing with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Achi Kamar. Hamitzi Shemra, someone that defames his wife, like Evanaisin Meyasela. He has to pay 100 coins and he gets Malchus. Uhu Shabal, but that's only if he had relations with her. Rabbi Yehuda Lilka is like Mikal Makkah. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. Even if he is basing it on witnesses, he's still going to get Malchus. It's only the 100 coins that he doesn't have to pay. The Gemara says, "V'sav Rabbi Yehuda Lilka is like Mikal Makkah." Rabbi Yehuda actually holds that you get Malchus. Now, Rabbi Yehuda is going to be saying that you get Malchus for giving her a bad name, the prohibition of rechilas, of lashon hara, or mitzi shemra. That's what the Malchus is going to be for. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Does he really get Malchus? Vatani, we have a brisa that says Rabbi Daimer Baal like Baal Eino like. Does he doesn't get Malchus if he didn't have relations with her? He's basing it on witnesses. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak like Makas Mardus Midrabanan. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says that when it says that he's getting Malchus, it doesn't mean the biblical Malchus. It means rabbinic Makas Mardus. It's called. Rav Papa says no. He argues on Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. He says, "My Baal Laika." What does it mean? That if he has relations, then he gets Malchus and Loi Baal in a Laika. Viktani Hasam Mammon. The question is, does he have to pay? Laika doesn't mean lashes. Laika means he gets hit with a penalty. Laika mammon. And so this whole story of Rabbi Yehuda Baal Laika, Loi Baal Eino Laika, means does he have to pay the penalty or does he not have to pay the penalty? That depends on if he has relations or not. But the Malchus, he's always going to get. This Laika means he gets hit with the penalty. Yeah, like there's an expression in English, right? You get slapped with a fine or something. Yeah.
Could they have found a way to make it more confusing? Use the slushing.
Use the same term. That. So I'm not sure. It says the Karle Lamam and Malchus, and you're calling the money Malchus in V'hatanan, and we have a Mishnah that says, if someone says, I accept to pay half of my value. Now, when his value is determined by his age. That's what he's going to have to pay to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Hektish, right? So if he says half of my value, so he has to give half the value. Rabbi Yehuda says he gets hit and he has to pay his full value. Like Amai, why does he get hit? What did he do wrong? Amar Rav Papa like be'erach shalim. Rav Papa says he gets hit with paying the full value. He gets slapped with the fine. My timer, what's the reason? Why does he have to pay the full value? Only accepted half the value. Well, it says half of his value is a gzeira that he could have said. He could have said the value of half. That's different than half the value. The value of half of him would mean, like, how do you divide them? Like this, so like that. But whatever the case is, it's going to include one of the limbs of his body that his life is dependent on. And once you include one of the limbs of the body that the life is dependent on, so then it's as if you have the whole person there. And so therefore, if it's erech chetzia, the value of half of him is really the value of all of him. So chatzi erka is a gzeira of erech chetzia. And therefore, this Rabbi Yehuda says that he has to pay the whole thing. So it's my time gzeira chatzi erka yatu erech chetzia v'erech chetzia haveli ever shanasham etluya by. That's considered part of his body that his life is dependent on. Okay, let's go a little further. We're going through the parsha over here of the Mitzvah Shemra. It says they punish him. What do they punish him with? Zem mamin. That's the money he has to pay. The Yisru, and they punish him. What does that mean? Zem malchus. How do they translate Yisru?
Chastise.
Chastise. That means that he gets lashes. I know that va'anshu means that he has to pay money because it says that they fine him 100 coins and he gives it to the father of the girl. How do we know that v'yisru is malchus? Well, you got to look at Rashi over here. It says v'yisru isai over here that they chastise him, and it says by the ben seir Meira v'yisru. Over there it says ben as well. So v'yisru and ben go together. Now I have another place where it says ben, and that's talking about bin hakais Russia. That means by getting malchus, takes us back to over here where it says yisru, which was connected to the ben. So he ends up. We know that yisru means malchus. Azhar l'maitzi shemra minalan. Where was he warned? It just says that he gets punished. Usually we like to have the prohibition for this. Rabbi Elazar Eimer milay selach rachel says you can't spread rumors. Reb Nosson Eimer minashmarti mikol davara says that you should be careful from anything bad. I guess mikol davara probably means mikol dibara. I'm saying something bad. I guess that's what the Gemara is doing.
Reb Nosson understands what davara can only be.
Yeah.
See Rashi.
See Rashi? I don't see it in Rashi. Oh, Rashi in the okay. Okay. Rabbi Elazar, my time amar mihai. Why didn't Rabbi Elazar say what Reb Nosson says? You should be careful not to say anything bad. It says he uses that for something else. It's Reb Pinchas ben Yair says, you should be careful from anything bad. Reb Pinchas ben Yair says, Al Yaharadim b'yayim. Person shouldn't let his mind think about things by day. That will cause him to become impure by night. Reb Nosson, impure by night means I'll have a mission. Because the source for that was that right next to these psukim, it says about someone that has an emission. Okay. Someone that becomes tummy. Reb Nosson, my time why didn't Reb Nosson use Leselach Rachel? Who has her lebezdin shleye rachel zeh. The bezdin is not allowed to treat the people that come in front, the litigants, can't treat them differently. Can't be soft to one and harsh on the other. Can't yell at one and nice to the other. And rachil is coming from the word rach, means to be soft. The bezdin shouldn't be soft. In other words, he's using it for somewhere else. We say rachel means to peddle storyteller, right? Okay. Lo yamar le'edim bo ve'iduni. He did not tell the witnesses, come and testify for me. You see, what's going on over here is that the Mitzvah Shemra also gets witnesses to testify that she committed adultery, and then it turns out that they were lying. But let's say the witnesses showed up on their own, and he didn't. And they're testifying on their own. So who ain't a loika? He doesn't get lashes, and he doesn't have to pay the 100 coins. He didn't arrange it, right? Now he did say that she didn't find it to be a virgin, but he didn't arrange the witnesses. He is a memea makdim in lebeis haskila. We're going back to quote that brisa. It says that she and the zaymamen go to get stoned. He was a memea salkadai. How does she get stoned together with the zaymamen? that means that it's either one or the other. Is the story true or not true? Like the Gemara did before, it corrected it. It says either she or the Zayman gets done. The reason why he doesn't have to pay is because he didn't hire the witnesses. He didn't tell them anything. But let's say he did tell them. Even if he didn't pay them. This is coming to exclude something Rabbi Yehuda says. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda says that he actually has to pay the Edom in order to have the whole story of the Mitzvah Shemra. My time with the Rabbi Yehuda, where does Rabbi Yehuda get this, that the Edom have to be paid in order for him to be liable? It says the word sim means to place. That he makes up a libel against her. It says you don't place on him interest. Just like the interest over there is money. Afkan mammon over here also it's money. That means that he's paying for these witnesses. Okay. You have a source from a Tanaic source that was taught in the house of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Yosef Tzidoni, Bei Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Sima. Okay. Boy Reb Yirmiyah. Reb Yirmiyah asked a question. You told me that they have to be paid with money. Sachan bekarka mahu. Let's say he hired them by offering them property. He's learning it from Ribbis. Will it apply to property as well? Let's say he gives less than the value of a coin. He gives them a very small coin, even less than a coin. What's the din over there? Let's say he gives both of them one pruta. That means each one is only earning less than a pruta, a half a pruta. Let's say he married her twice. He married her and divorced her and married her again. And now in the second marriage, he says, you committed adultery by the first one.
Oh.
Yeah. Al Nesui Yachav Mahu. Let's say he's actually not marrying his wife, he's marrying his brother's wife. Why? Because he's doing Yibam. And he's claiming that you committed adultery before you married my brother. Brother's dead. So, the one thing I can tell you, we can answer one thing, that the Tani Rabbi Yaina espitin asat lishazeh lezev le'liyavam, that he can't make this claim when it comes to his brother's wife. He says, the father says he's going to have witnesses, but these halachas are only going to apply to this one. And we have a source that says, when the person's claiming against him, the father is claiming against the husband. He says, I gave my daughter to this man, and he's making a libel against her. So it says, La'ish hazeh, to this man. Now that's saying that it's only I gave it to this man and not to the Yavam. So that's telling me that the halachas don't apply, at least to that case. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Two different incentives here, because in the novo marriage, the incentive is he wants to marry the woman, and unless there's